When it comes to multi-purpose commercial vans, there isn't really a car company that has quite as much experience as the Ford Motor Company. The company has been spending a lot of time in this space with the Econoline / E-Series for well over 60 years. However, about a decade ago, Ford decided to replace the E-Series and Econoline with the Transit. Well, now the Transit nameplate is new in America. However, it has been around in other parts of the world for about as long as the E-Series. And about 4 years ago, Ford decided to go even bolder by introducing the very first ever E-Transit. This is essentially a fully electrified variant of the company's very popular cargo van. And unlike the gas-powered variants, which pulls out the internal combustion engine, this swaps in the rear electric motor from an F-150 Lightning, delivering up to 266 horsepower, and for 2024, up to 159 miles of all-electric range. So as you can see, this week we are testing out which I believe to be the sweet spot in the E-Transit cargo van family. This is the medium height roof with the longer wheelbase, which means the range drops to around 124 miles. But the big question I want to answer, for those of you who are a small business owner and you're looking to essentially go fully electric with your fleet, how does the brand new 2024 Ford E-Transit stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before I start talking about the styling differences between the E-Transit and the gas-powered Transit, let me go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's underneath here, because as you guys know, the regular gas-powered variant of the Transit is available with either two V6 options, a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated or a 3.5 liter twin turbo. Both of those gas engines actually make more power versus the E-Transit, but without the gas engine underneath here, Ford actually still doesn't give you a front trunk storage space, which is a little disappointing. Now, as you can see underneath here, you're going to find essentially the cooling mechanisms, the inverter, some wiring for the electric motors, and sadly, Ford does not offer this vehicle with a front electric motor, so all E-Transits are going to be rear-wheel drive. They essentially use the same single electric motor from the F-150 Lightning, which means you get 266 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque going to the rear wheels. If you guys want all-wheel drive, the gas-powered Transit will offer all-wheel drive as part of an option for like $3,800 if you guys want all-wheel drive, so it's a little bit pricey. The E-Transit, however, all goes out through a 1-speed reduction gear transmission versus the 10 speeds that you get in the gas-powered variant. Ford doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time, but we'll test it out when we get out on the road. This vehicle did get a larger battery pack for 2024. It's been enlarged to now 89 kilowatt hours. That's the usable amount. Previously, it was 68 kilowatt hours. So for such a huge vehicle, I'm actually surprised that the battery is pretty small on the E-Transit. Top speed for this vehicle is actually only 75 miles an hour, which you'll know why when I back away and show you how big and massive this thing is. Surprisingly, the E-Transit is not rated to tow. The gas-powered models will tow up to 4,500 pounds, but Ford does not recommend that for the E-Transit, at least here in America. Max payload is around 3,800 pounds if you guys go for the shorter wheelbase standard roof height model. This model here, however, will carry up to 3,100 pounds of payload inside the actual vehicle. Charging or range, like I said earlier, is around 124 miles. We don't know the curb weight of this vehicle, but I would estimate it's probably between 6,000 to 6,500 pounds, which honestly isn't as heavy as I expected it to be considering how big the vehicle is. But let's go ahead and close up this roof or this hood here and talk about the exterior styling, because as you can see, the Transit nameplate has only been around in America since 2015, and back in 2020, Ford did give it a slight refresh. From the exterior design, however, on the E-Transit, you probably wouldn't be able to tell it's the electric variant until you actually look at the grille. You can see the grille has these horizontal blue lines to kind of accentuate the fact that this is electric with the big blue oval Ford badge. And then if you open up this right here, as you can see, that's where you're going to find the charge port door. Now, this vehicle still continues to use the J1772 plug with the CCS combo for fast charging. Ford says it has an 11.3 kilowatt onboard charger. Like I said earlier, 124 miles of electric only range on this model, 159 if you guys go for the shorter lower roof variant. This vehicle can also accept up to 176 kilowatts on a max DC fast charger. That is an improvement of around 60 kilowatts versus last year's model, which basically means you can basically add around 67 miles of range in about 15 minutes. Probably take about 30 to 40 minutes on a level 3 if you guys go from 10 to 80%. I'm surprised it doesn't use the NAC charger, but I suspect it will at some point. Ford will probably switch that out for 2025 or 2026. You can go to Tesla charging stations, however, with the Ford included adapter. So that's, again, going to really open up the charging ability of this vehicle. Now, in terms of the exterior styling, my test car is painted in blue metallic. It's an extra $200 for the blue paint. The headlights, these are the bi-xenon black accented headlights. You can see the headlights themselves, I'm surprised to see it's a bi-xenon as opposed to the LEDs. The high beams, however, appear to be just halogens. So technically it's just a single xenon, although obviously it says bi-xenon there. It does have an LED daytime running light, incandescent turn signals, and you also have halogen fog lights at the lower fascia of the vehicle. You can see the Transit in general is just a commercial vehicle, so the bumpers are unpainted. It's kind of a basic looking vehicle. You have these rather conventional wipers. There are some, looks like, functional vents here. This allows for cooling for the battery pack and for the electric motors, I'm assuming. You do have some integrated front parking sensors, and my test car also has the 360 camera system for an extra $830, which I would believe to be highly necessary if you're going to drive around a vehicle that's this large. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see the E-Transit is a massive vehicle. Now, I mentioned earlier, Ford offers it in essentially 3 different roof lengths and 2 different roof heights and 3 different lengths for the vehicle. My particular test car is the medium height roof, which is right in the middle between the low and the higher roof height, which means this vehicle stands at around 101 inches tall in height. So it's around 8.44 feet tall in height. If you guys go for the higher roof variant, it's around 9.2 feet in height. The standard roof, I believe, is around 7 feet in height. So keep that in mind. Wheelbase is around 148 inches. Overall length is 235.5. So if you guys are used to like a Ford F-150 crew cab with the 5.5-foot bed, this is only about 3 inches longer. Its wheelbase is actually a little shorter, but it is significantly taller because, again, it's a cargo van. You're going to need that extra height. Now, for a vehicle that's this big, I am surprised to see Ford put the puniest little tires on this car. It's riding on a 16-inch Steely with a full wheel cover, as you can see, riding on a 235 by 65 R16 Continental Van Contact AS all-season tire. You do have all-disc brakes at least. The front suspension is a McPherson strut. The rear, however, is now multi-link independent. So compared to the regular gas-powered variant, which has a live axle with leaf springs, Ford did upgrade the rear suspension of this van to obviously accommodate the rear electric motor. The mirrors, you can see these are massive tow-style mirrors with integrated turn signals, although this thing doesn't actually tow. You do, again, have a 360 camera system. You can see blind spot indicator is also included. No power folding mirrors. As you can see, lots of black cladding around the van as well. This is, I believe, where the gas tank fill-up would have been if this was the gas-powered variant. But then backing away here, my particular test car is missing the windows that you can get for the side of the vehicle. That is part of an optional a la carte package. There is no availability, however, of a sliding door on the driver's side. It's only on the passenger side, which is kind of surprising. Moving over here, you can see it's just a big square, which is necessary. Obviously, if you're going to be using this as a utility type vehicle, you want maximize amount of space on the inside. So Ford obviously gives that to you with the medium height roof. You can see the taillights, all incandescent for the brake lights, for the turn signals, for the reverse lights. And then, of course, it says E-Transit back here, although I think my test car is missing the I there. That's why it says E-Trans T, so not sure what happened to the I. The rest of the rear, you can see the bumper is unpainted at the lower portion. You have essentially just the Ford logo to the side. There isn't really much back here. You can get it with glass back here. My test car doesn't have that. Instead, it just has the camera system here and there for the full 360 and the digital camera review mirror, which is part of an extra $550. Definitely necessary for a vehicle with no windows at the back. Now, getting into the cargo area, it's got that classic 2-door design where you can essentially open the right side first and then open up the left side. I love the fact that Ford gives you the ability to kind of pull this and you can actually open this up to move the doors out of the way. If you're in a tight area, this allows the doors to kind of flip to the side to give you better access to the cargo area. And check this out, guys. There is just a crap ton of space. In fact, Ford says you get a maximum of 357 cubic feet of space. And this is actually the same as the gas-powered cargo van. So there is no penalty here by going with the electric variant of the vehicle. Ford says if you took all the seats out, you have a maximum of 400 plus cubic feet, which is crazy. I think the last vehicle I tested that had a crap ton of space was like most minivans, which have around 140 to 150 cubic feet of space. That's something that like Chevy Suburban also offers. So this offers roughly 3 times the amount of space. And on the inside here, as you can see, the roof height of this vehicle basically allows for up to 6 feet tall items. So if you're under 6 feet tall, you can actually stand back here, which I'll go ahead and do that. As I hop in here, you can see standing in here, this little pillar here comes kind of close to my head. I am 5'7", as you guys know, but if I stand over here, I have a good solid maybe 3 inches of additional clearance space. So this is important if you guys are using this vehicle as actually a cargo van. Now, obviously you can get it with availability with shelving in here if you guys want. The wheel wells do intrude there if you guys plan on putting items all the way up to the side panels of the van. But if you guys are planning to use this as like a camper conversion, an RV, or as a work type vehicle, there's just a crap ton of space. There's also LED lights in here as well. And then my particular test car also has the Pro Power on board, which is an extra $1,500. This essentially allows up to 2.4 kilowatts of additional power to be taken from the van's battery pack and basically going to this outlet here. There's 2 outlets that allow you to power up your tools, power up your computer, recharge your tools and whatnot. But overall, as you can see, if you guys are, thinking that the electric version would kind of eat into the cargo space, I'm happy to report that it doesn't affect that. If you look underneath here, I want to show you guys that. That right there is the independent rear suspension and the rear electric motor, which makes this vehicle look very distinctive when you're following it from the rear. That's how you can tell the difference, obviously, between the gas and the electric variant. So obviously Ford has done a great job with the packaging, even though this vehicle is not built off of a dedicated EV architecture. Now moving on to the interior of this 2024 Ford E-Transit. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see, surprisingly, all of them, I believe, come standard with the company's Intelligent Access push-button smart key system. If you guys want more than just 2 keys, Ford actually offers that as an option for you. You can see the key fob itself has the usual buttons here for lock, or for unlock, lock. That, I believe, locks either the side door or the rear door, while there's your panic function. I believe there's no phone as a key function, although if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comment section below if you guys are an owner. As you approach the vehicle, you can see there's still a very traditional looking keyhole here if you guys want to use the key. Touch that little area there, that actually locks the door for you. There's no power folding mirrors. If you touch the back of the door handle, that again is going to unlock the door for you. Now, my particular test car has the blue metallic exterior paint with the dark Paluzzo gray cloth interior. So this is kind of like a gray and black two-tone combination with this interesting kind of pattern in the seat as it's right here. You can also get it with a fully black ebony cloth interior. These seats are only cloth. You can't get it with leather or Ford's vinyl leather material. And you can see the steering wheel is just the urethane material. Ford does not offer a leather wrapped wheel, which would have been nice, but again, this is a cargo van. You don't really need a lot of the luxury stuff. Door panels, you can see all of it is hard touch plastic. There is a little bit of storage here. Window controls, they are not even one touch up or down, so kind of keep that in mind. Door handles feel really cheap and flimsy, but you can see the buttons and switchgear feel decent. It's all hard touch plastic here with additional storage. And then I believe this vehicle has a 6-speaker sound system, which sounds okay. It's a cargo van. Obviously, it's not going to be great, but it functions, it works, and the tech in this car is surprisingly good considering, what this vehicle is. Now, obviously, getting inside, there's a nice little lower step area here. There's also a grab handle for somebody like myself. So basically, you use the grab handle, hoist yourself in to get in here. And once you're in here, you can see you have a really nice commanding view of the road. This is going to remind you of like a Super Duty F-250 at times when you're sitting here. As I shut the door, the door doesn't have the solid sounding thunk that I'm used to. Instead, it's a little hollow and rattly, and you hear a lot of echoing because the interior right behind me is basically just an empty shell. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. When you want to start the vehicle up, the start-stop button is located here. Put the brake in. And because it's electric, obviously there's no engine starter noise. It kind of just whirs to life. It says ready in the instrument panel. And then you can see the gauge display here is very rudimentary as well. In fact, you can tell that Ford kind of converted this vehicle from a gas-powered variant into an EV, because right there would have been the tach, but instead you kind of get like a power meter. You have an analog speedometer over here, and it even shows right there what used to be a fuel gauge. Instead, they kind of put a little battery icon there to let you know that that's for your electric motor charge. That right there, max, I don't really know what that's for because I never really noticed that needle moving much, but you can see there is a 4-inch or maybe 3.5-inch helper screen right here. We can kind of go to different views if you want. That's surprisingly decent quality considering how old that instrument panel looks, but I also appreciate the traditional aspect of it. You can see the steering wheel does offer a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment, which offers a good amount of range for telescope, but not for tilt. But I could still easily find a decent driving position. This seat, however, only adjusts 4 ways, so it only has the manual recline and it has basically the manual slide forward and back. There's no height adjustment for the seat, which is, I think, a little disappointing. No heated seats as well, so kind of keep that in mind. But for somebody my height at 5'7", this is basically my commanding view of the road, and I could find a comfortable driving position pretty well. Now, looking at the rest of the dash, you can see it's all hard touch plastic. It's all designed for utility, so I'm not going to knock Ford too much for using plasticky materials. There is a really nice shelf up here. You can see there's a USB charger, a 12 volt. There's a really big storage area here and storage area here, although this does not have like a non-slip material, so all your crap that you put in there is going to slide around. There's also another storage shelf over here. All e-Transits will also come with Ford's latest 12-inch Sync 4 infotainment system. Now, obviously, it's not their newest software, but the fact that you have a standard 12-inch screen in a vehicle like this is surprisingly impressive. It does include wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which also allows you to go full screen Apple CarPlay. Going to the features there, you can also pull up your drive mode. Surprisingly, this van has 3 different drive modes: normal, eco, and slippery. No sport mode, which is good. A vehicle like this doesn't need a sport mode. When you have it in eco, however, it does reduce the power output of the engine, I believe, to just, or the electric motor, to like half the capacity versus the 266 that you can get. The Pro Power on board is where you can basically use the generator. It actually will tell you how many watts you're consuming. You can also set it to basically turn off the Pro Power when the battery reaches a certain charge level. You can see it's right there at 45 miles. Or you can also go into a default, which is the 45 miles, or you can kind of change that out to your liking. So I like that feature to keep you from completely draining the battery pack. If you need to go somewhere, your charge settings are right there, where you can essentially set a max charge level. I have the vehicle at 92% right now. But overall, you can see this is pretty similar to other Ford Sync systems. Now, when I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera. And as you can also hear, that is the white noise backup sound, which is actually an extra $155. And it sounds ridiculous, but I guess Ford needed to do some kind of sound to let people know that this massive brick was backing up. You can see it's got distance markers, trajectory. My test car actually has their automatic parallel parking system, which I guess is kind of a nice feature for a vehicle this large. But the quality and resolution is actually surprisingly good, so I'm pretty impressed with that. And I love the fact that the screen here at 12 inches is standard. You don't have to pay extra for that. The gas-powered variants, I believe, have a smaller 8-inch screen as standard versus the electrics come standard with the big screen. You can see there's a USB-A charging port here, another 12 volt. Your transmission selector, obviously, there's a cup holder here, a cup holder there. And then you can see over here in the center, big pass-through area where you can put things here. You do have these fold-down armrests. The seats are also surprisingly comfortable and decent on longer trips. The passenger side also only moves forward and back, and also has the height adjustment. The vehicle is so damn wide that I have to literally crawl over here to show you the glove box, but you can see there is a digital camera rearview mirror. That's an extra $550. And then my test car also has the shelving up here for an extra $70. So there's basically storage shelves here. There's not a slip-resistant surface here, but there is a slip-resistant surface here, which at least is good because all your crap would fly out. There is a warning here that says do not put heavy or hard objects on the shelf, which could literally hit you in the head while you're driving, so that's a good warning from Ford. Another cup holder over here, additional storage over here, as you can see. And then over here you can see there's just a glove box that kind of cheaply falls, but it's a pretty good size as well, along with your more cup holders over here. Legroom space, Ford says, is around 41 inches up front here, which is really good. I mean, obviously there's no seats in the back. You can have as much space as you'd like. And then I forgot to show you guys the space over into the second row, or sorry, not the space in the second row, but this door. You can see this third door is included, but let me go ahead and unlock it because it's locked right now. This sliding door is obviously not powered, but when you do open it up, it's a huge opening. So if you guys need to pull out stuff from the door over here, you certainly can do so if the back is blocked, for example. And you can see here, Ford doesn't offer the 15-passenger or passenger van in the electric variant, but with all the space over here, you can see there's a step rail that my test car has for an extra $250. That's a running board, I'm sorry, not a step rail, which allows me, someone like myself, to kind of hop in, and you can essentially just walk around in here like I showed you earlier. So this is absolutely fantastic. The medium height roof gives you, again, that 6-foot roof height, which is necessary for people to stand up in here. You can see there's the storage shelf area, a little bit closer look. But keep in mind, again, if you guys go for the high roof variant, you'll have an even higher roof. I don't know the dimensions of the roof on the inside for the high roof off the top of my head, but overall, as you can see, the interior of this van is certainly basic, but it's well thought out. It has decent tech. It has plenty of storage, and it also has comfortable seats. So I think Ford did a really great job considering the nature and purpose of this type of vehicle. So it's kind of crazy to think in all the years that I've been doing these videos, I've actually never had a chance to drive and film a Ford Transit van. So getting a chance to spend a week with the E-Transit is a really nice opportunity, and Ford couldn't have sent me this van at a better time, because literally this weekend when I had it, I was moving into my new house that my husband and I have been building for the past 5 months. And this thing was just absolutely the perfect vehicle to use as a moving car or moving vehicle. But if you guys are interested in one of these vehicles, what is it like to drive? Well, if you're used to driving, you know, an Econoline or any kind of big, large, full-size truck, this is going to feel pretty, you know, familiar from a sense that lengthwise, it's about the same length as a crew cab, short bed F-150. The vehicle is also around 101 inches tall, so 8.4 feet tall. So you do have to get used to sitting up very high. You basically feel like you're sitting in a Super Duty, but this vehicle only comes with a single electric motor powering the rear wheels from a Ford F-150 Lightning. It delivers 266 horsepower, 317 foot-pounds of torque. Let's go ahead and test out the 0 to 60 time. It's got a 1-speed reduction gear transmission. We're sitting at a full charge right now. And again, it's not a cargo van, but it actually will get up and move pretty well. 0 to 60 happened in 8.65 seconds. 8.65 is actually not bad. Now, granted, I actually haven't had a chance to drive the gas-powered version of this van. Ford offers it with a choice between either a 3.5 EcoBoost or the 3.5 twin-turbo EcoBoost. Both of those gas engines offer more horsepower, but this powertrain offers basically almost as much torque as the EcoBoost. I think I misspoke earlier, 366, I believe, foot-pounds of torque, not 317. But it is, again, a pretty potent combination. And what's fantastic about this is the fact that it's electric. There is no waiting for any gears to shift, for turbos to spool up, no engine to rev. It just feels really, really responsive. And when you put your foot down, there is a little bit of like sluggishness off the line, but you can see it actually, I'm noticing it doesn't deliver full power until about 40 miles an hour. 9.6 there. Now that's with it more going slightly uphill. I'm surprised to see a big 1 second deficit for the 0 to 60 time, but still, this is a cargo van. This is a vehicle where you can literally haul over 3,000 pounds of payload in the back. It has over 400 cubic feet of total storage space. I'm sitting up basically as high as a Super Duty. And the other thing that surprised me about the Transit van is this is a surprisingly easy vehicle to drive. I mean, granted, if you guys don't like long cars, you're not gonna find this easy to drive, but I'm used to driving pretty much almost everything. And I was expecting this thing to be kind of a pain in the ass to drive, and it's not. The seats are pretty comfortable. These are, again, the cloth seats that you can only get with the Transit, the E-Transit. It's only available as a cargo van or a chassis cab or a cutaway. There's no passenger van version of the E-Transit, but what's different about this model versus the gas-powered version is Ford actually significantly, ignore that, Ford actually significantly updated the rear suspension. So instead of a live axle with leaf springs at the back, we have an independent suspension, and we have that powerful electric motor at the rear end. Again, this thing is rear-wheel drive. If you guys want all-wheel drive, Ford does offer all-wheel drive on the gas-powered only variants. I actually think Ford should consider offering all-wheel drive. This vehicle, again, got a bigger battery pack this year. 89 kilowatt hours are usable. I suspect it's probably 92 is the nominal or the gross capacity. I am shocked, actually, that Ford doesn't want to put like the 120 kilowatt hour battery pack from the Lightning. It actually would probably do really well in this vehicle, but Ford, they really want to sell this thing as more of a city commercial kind of usage vehicle, and that's the reason why the range they said is okay at 124. Put my foot down here, the rear is stepping out a little bit, but it's nice. Like, I also love the electric motor sound. That's all real. It's not fake generated sound, and I'm impressed. This thing drives really well. It rides really comfortably. Now, obviously, it's a cargo van. There's very little sound deadening in here. You do hear some noise. If you get this vehicle speed above 50 miles an hour, you're gonna hear a ton of road noise. You're gonna hear literally the rocks and the pebbles, you know, ricocheting off of the wheel wells as you drive down the road. You're gonna hear wind noise. You're gonna hear the electric motor noise. This is not a vehicle that you're gonna find comfortable to drive on longer trips, especially if you guys don't like noisy interiors. You don't buy a vehicle like that for, you know, sound insulation, but the ride quality in this thing is really good. Even as I hit some pretty nastier bumps, I'm used to like Econoline vans or Chevy Express vans. They crash and they just rattle. They're absolute nightmares out on the road, but this thing actually doesn't rattle too much, so I'm really genuinely surprised. Now, the turning radius is not great. You can feel that long, almost 150-inch long wheelbase. So you do have to kind of make sure you have enough space to turn. I also noticed that the visibility in this thing is really good, so you can see around things relatively well because you have this nice commanding view of the road. These A-pillars are kind of small. I love the tech that this model has. You can get it with a digital camera review mirror, which is necessary when you don't have the glass back there. You can get the glass if you guys want. You can also get it with a full 360 camera. This van doesn't have adaptive cruise control, but you can get it with adaptive cruise control, which will include automatic emergency braking. And this vehicle also has rear parking sensors. That's all optional. I mean, this is, again, a pretty bare bones cargo van. I don't even have a leather wrapped wheel. No heated seats are available or cooled seats, but at least the cloth seats, they don't feel, atrociously cheap. They're fine. And I've been driving this thing all weekend, granted mostly on shorter trips, but it is relatively comfortable as well. These seats are nice. The padding feels good. They don't hold you in place at all. But you go buy a vehicle like this for aggressive driving. But look at this, like when you turn the wheel, the vehicle steering responds very quickly. What's interesting about the Transit vans is these are so much better to drive than the old Econolines because Ford switched to a unibody construction for these vehicles. And they also gave it a McPherson strut front suspension on the gas variants, and then they go a step further for the EV by adding the independent rear suspension. So it's a really refined vehicle, and it's no wonder that the Transit remains one of the top-selling, cargo vans or passenger vans or cutaway chassis vans out there. It is just an easy vehicle to live with on a daily basis. Now, granted, I haven't had a chance to drive much of the competition, but I am shockingly impressed. Now let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, the range. This vehicle is rated at 124 miles of electric-only range, and that's because we have the medium height roof that gives you basically 8.5 feet almost tall in height, almost 6 feet of height in the interior of this van. It does obviously reduce the aerodynamics of the vehicle, reduce the range. You can get this with up to 159 miles of range. That's for the low roof variant. The low roof is still obviously very usable, but I think the medium roof is probably a good compromise between everything because the high roof is too high. It's over 9 feet tall on the outside, which makes it so it doesn't fit into very many garages at all. I mean, this actually does squeeze into my garage at my new house because it has a 9-foot roof. If I had the higher roof version, it wouldn't do that. In my week's worth of testing, it has been cold, granted. I've been averaging around 110 miles of electric-only range, which is not bad. That is mostly around town driving. Now, if I was driving this more on the highway and I had a bunch of stuff in the back of this thing, I would expect it to be under 100 miles. I mean, it's not aerodynamic. The top speed is only 75 miles. It basically will charge from empty to full in about 8 hours on my level 2 home charger. You can also now charge it a little bit faster on a level 3. Ford says they've increased the kilowatt hours acceptance rate to 176 kilowatts, which is fine. It's average. It's not like the quickest, but if Ford wants to expand the appeal of the E-Transit, I really think they need to consider swapping in, or at least offering the larger 120 kilowatt hour battery pack from the Lightning and offering this with all-wheel drive. I think an all-wheel drive variant would be really nice, especially if you live in a cold climate like myself. And they also should consider offering the 15-passenger variant of this vehicle. I mean, obviously, the 15-passenger variant's a little bit different because you're going to want more range with that model because you're going to be, carrying more people. So I can see why Ford only offers it as a cargo van with all the, shelving that you'd like to get if you guys have a small business or a big business and you just do a lot of around-town driving. But really, until I get a gas-powered Transit, I'm not really sure if the electric is worth the extra charge, although Ford kept the price in check because the company only really charges between $4,000 to $8,000 more for the electric version, which I actually think is kind of a steal. So with just over 152,000 Transits sold in America last year, this was again one of the best-selling commercial multi-purpose vans that you can find in the United States. And out of that number, Ford says they sold around 12,000 E-Transits, which represents roughly an 8% take rate compared to the gas-powered variant. And I seriously think that if Ford could expand the appeal of this vehicle by offering the larger battery pack, by offering all-wheel drive, after spending a week with just this medium height roof, single motor rear-wheel drive variant, I am surprisingly, shockingly impressed. I mean, obviously Ford gave me this vehicle at the perfect moment when I was trying to move into my new home, which allowed me to essentially fully test out the cargo hauling abilities. This thing will seriously carry as much as you'd like, and it is surprisingly easy to load. It's also surprisingly easy to drive. 0 to 60 happened in 8.6 seconds, which isn't fast, but it's also pretty quick considering this is essentially just a huge brick that weighs well over 6,000 pounds, well over 9,000 pounds if you have it maxed out with its 3,000 pound payload capacity. Handling wise is also surprisingly good because of the low battery pack, because of the independent rear suspension improving the handling dynamics. Even though we've got literally one of the smallest tires I've ever seen on a vehicle this large, traction really wasn't an issue even when we were driving in cold, slightly slippery, wet road conditions, which just kind of shows you how good electric motors are at putting that power down compared to an internal combustion engine vehicle. Obviously, if you guys plan on doing longer road trips, the range of this vehicle is not great, but in the real world, we were getting around 110 miles in mostly city driving. On the highway, this thing is also noisy. It's going to have lots of road and wind noise and electric motor noises coming in because there's not really much sound deadening. This is essentially just a shell. It's a cargo van that you can basically customize till your heart's content. Now, if you guys are interested in putting a transit van in your driveway, what's it going to cost? Well, Ford has surprisingly kept the pricing of these vehicles in check, because if you guys want to get basically the cheapest cutaway E-Transit, they start at around 45,000 bucks, which is actually around $1,000 less versus the gas-powered chassis cutaway equivalent. Now, obviously, if you guys want to go to the cargo van, it's going to cost you more. The cargo van will start at just under $50,000. That's actually around $4 grand more expensive versus the gas-powered equivalent of the cargo van. If you guys want to go to the medium height roof, it's only about $1,000 extra. Going to the higher roof variant is also only $1,000 extra. So this vehicle here starts at around $52,000, including destination. Now, my test car has about $11,000 worth of options on it. The biggest option package was the enhanced rear electric motor, which I believe Ford actually has probably lowered the price ever since at least this version here was produced. Right now, you can still only buy a 2024 variant. Ford has not announced anything about the 2025 variant of the E-Transit as of this filming in January 2025. Now, with options and destination, my particular test car here, stickers for around $67,220. 67 grand definitely sounds like a lot of money for essentially just a big, massive box with a ton of space on the inside, but that's essentially what you're going to pay. There isn't really much in terms of competitors. Ram is supposed to be coming out with a ProMaster that's going to have an electric variant, which we don't have much details on yet. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter offers an electric variant, but that vehicle, while it does offer more range, over 200 miles, does cost between $15,000 to $20,000 more expensive. Of course, it's a Mercedes, but you can get the Mercedes with even more customization and an off-road variant, which is kind of cool. Obviously, I think Ford here for 67 grand offers a ton of value, and it also is a surprisingly easy vehicle to live with. So if you guys are considering going fully electric and you don't necessarily need to have the additional range to go on those longer drives on the highway, you should definitely put this new E-Transit at the very top of your list. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Ford E-Transit with the medium height roof. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.